5 things that we must do to create national security around resilient supply chains. Number one on my list, would be to start to further adopt change. Obviously, what we've been doing over the last, 10, 15 years is just straight not working. So we need to embrace change, that's out there. Look at new ways to, adopt, change, modify what we've got. Let's just not. You can't just keep doing what's not been working for the last 10 to 15 years. So number one on my list is we got to start making some changes out there, embrace change management and everything that goes along with it. Number two on my list would be starting to adopt some industry recognized cybersecurity frameworks that are out there. Doesn't matter what you're using, whether you're using NIST, the CIS Top 20, ISO 27001, or even the newer versions. As long as you're using that as that foundation for your cybersecurity framework, they're all very good. There's a lot of overlap between all the different programs themselves. So no matter which one you select, you're going to have a very good foundation. So picking one of those, building it out, and also I like to kind of use or recommend to a lot of people out there, do a pick and choose. Do a best in class, cybersecurity framework. Grab a little from what you like and what works well out of that CIS Top 20 and what you like of NIST. So as you're doing that, those will really start to help build, especially for those small to medium-sized businesses where they don't know where to start to implement that cybersecurity framework. These are good free tools that are out there and available for anybody. So they'll give you also too, just like in that analogy of a good, strong foundation of your house, it's going to be a good, strong foundation of your cyber program. So start using these. A lot of some of the other things I'm going to talk about too, they'll really kind of be, necessary, as part of those programs, and especially as I talk about later, through this list of mine, of my top 5, the self-assessment kind of work that's going to be built on NIST and other programs that are out there. You got to be doing the basics. You got to do them well too. Another one of what, number 3 on my list, and also too, is part of really any good cyber program, kind of helping those supply chains out there is pen test regularly. Mostly everyone listening to this is going to know what a pen test probably is, but if you don't for some reason, it's, having a third party come in, and help both either external or internal to your network to see, hey, they act as a hacker. They act as a bad guy. They are a white hat hacker that's trying to get in, exploit the vulnerabilities that are out there, and be able to remotely gain access to systems or your network. And what could they do? What could a bad or a true black hat hacker be able to get an access on your network that's out there? By doing these tests on a regular basis, you really understand where you are from a security perspective. And, then you can kind of come up with a good remediation list to slowly but surely improve your cybersecurity posture and become more secure. Without doing these, and without the expertise of an outside resource, you're not going to know, you're not always going to think like a hacker. You're not going to know where those vulnerabilities are. So I think it's a key part of, all cyber programs, and also to kind of help all of our supply chains, is to make sure too that, hey, make sure you get someone who can think differently than your internal IT can, to make sure that you're there addressing all the right cyber security vulnerabilities and threats that are out there. Number 4 on my list, is operational technology, or OT. So that's in general, what I like to describe as operational technologies is the manufacturing, typically manufacturing companies, but applicable to many. It would be like belt lines, factory presses, process control networks. Normally, it's like the lifeblood of your company. Where the money's actually made. Focusing in on these networks, they're much more difficult to secure than your standard laptops and desktops and servers that are on your network. These are typically very big, very expensive, pieces of equipment that are out there. And they, sometimes they need to be part of your business network. Ideally, in a lot of other cases, you can segment them off or be on a completely separate network, so that, hey, if there was ever to be a cybersecurity incident, the attackers couldn't get to them because these are becoming bigger and bigger targets. You've seen this, in a lot of the news and attacks that have happened recently, especially around things like the water attacks that happened down in Florida last year, the water treatment plants. That was on their OT technology. Attackers were able to access those systems remotely and change, the composition, and make it potentially unsafe for people to drink. Now, luckily, it was caught as part of processes that they had, so it never, made it out of the facility. But these are becoming bigger threats, and bigger things that attackers are looking for, both from an attack side and from a ransomware side. So to help shore up our supply chains, we need to supply up these OT technologies that are out there. And again, as I stated, it's not as easy as it sounds because, again, it may cost, you may have purchased that factory, manufacturing belt lines, or presses, 10 years ago, and the operating system's already outdated. It's not supported, so getting those updated and staying up to date and patched are much more difficult than other systems that are out there. But we need to find ways to move quicker and faster to shore up the security around those systems. Five, not least of all, I talked about this earlier in the interview, is we have to stop being able to self-assess for security questionnaires, security, insurance questionnaires, anything like that. Self-assessing just straight doesn't work. I mean, the analogy I used earlier was it's like grading your own paper, in junior high school. There's a reason your teacher didn't let you do it. You kind of look for everywhere you can in the gray area, to not mark something incorrectly. That's what seems to be happening over and over again, and why we're starting to see programs, especially in the government side, around CMMC and having to have a third party come in and assess your cybersecurity program in order for you to bid on projects. So that's becoming a more and more norm, and I really feel that that's a key part of starting to be able to make sure that our supply chains become much more secure, because at the end of the day, for the last 10 to 15 years, we've been allowed to grade our own paper, and it's obviously just straight not working.